I do want to acknowledge that we have Te Taru White and also Councillor Wang joining us online, and also just remind everyone that this hui is being live streamed, so please make sure that your phones are off or on silent. And we will look to take a first break at about 11 a.m, but we'll see how we go with our meeting. We do have 2 people that need to leave for early departure at 11. But before we get underway, I'd like to invite Councillor Waru to open us up with a mihi.
O toi e te arawa taputu ki te moana māwai e tō mā te whakarangake. E tarawai nuku, he tarawai rangi tini a monoa. E nau mai e tāne kia kau tāwai tawai piko piko iwhiti. E mā takitaki na koe te tini o te tangata. O i nāku koe tiki atu i te wāwi a tāne miroe, e tāne koa, e tāne rangahau. Papatua mai ana te kōmuri hau no runga wai hi, no runga wai ha. E atu raki nei taku waka, o kai tiko ki taku waka. E kare wā ke taku waka i te korokoro o te parata. Oi te Arawa e! Oi te Arawa e! O ko te wakari ki ko te wakari. E no tuku o mai ki a piri, tuku o mai ki a piri. O hoke eke, hirung, i te pai poto, ahoi mai ta whiti. E kāti kāre mo te whakaroa i te kaupapa engari tēnei rā te mihi kia tātou katoa o tira i te tatau o te Arawa. E whakakanohi nei ana i tēnei kaupapa nui whakaharara ki te. Wene noho te reo o mihi, te kupu whakamihi kia koutou o tira kai aku taitai hua. Kai te tino hari taku ngā kai wahakua te roa o te hae. Kia tau atura tātou ki tēnei kaupapa i tēnei ki rā a tēnā o tai atura tātou. Nā reira, e mihi atu ana. Ki te maru kura, e nā koe, e whakahaere nei i tā tātou hui. Koe no, e mihi atu ana ki a koutou. E hoki anō i tēnā kōrero, o te mea nui, ko tai mai a te Arawa ka rongohia te reo o te Arawa, ngā wā katoa i roto i ngā whakahaere o tēnei kaurihera. E mahi tahi te mahi, e anga whakamua te mahi, tēnā koutou, kāti, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Tiro ki taku tau, kei hara kei hea, kei runga kei raro kei roto i taku moe kāti, e ware ai te mihi ki o tātou mate. Tātou hinga mai anei runga i o tātou marae maha, ngā kāinga, e rā wāhi katoa. Tēnā, kia tātou anō, ka reo te hi te whakaroaroa, engari ka anui te aroha, ka anui hoki, te whakaro rangatira, kia tātou i tēnei ata, kia ora tātou katoa. Kia, kāhuri.
E te manukura tēnā koe. E te rangatira, e rawari, koutou rā. Tātou rā kua whakarau i ka nei. I runga i tēnei kaupapa, whakahira rawa atu kia tārawa. Tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou, mai a mātou i whakakanohi ai, i tō tātou puari, a te tatau o te Arawa, o tira kia te Arawa, whānui rawa atu. Hi kakarawa mātou te tāmai, hari koa mātou te tāmai. Hua weri hoki mātou te tāmai, e rangi tikana te koro te rāwiri rā, ana ko te kaupapa ka anga whakamua i runga i te wakakotai. Nō reira, kāri toro hoki i te kukoro ki a tātou i tēnei o ngā wā, e rangi e mehi ana ki a koe, e te rangatira, e te manukura o tira koutou katoa, ari koa te tātou o te Arawa, te tāmai nei i tēnei rā, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
E noho ana rā, i runga i tōku kaumata i tōna hā. Ka te tiro nā ki roto.
Akati tēnā tātou tāku, ia tīmata ke tā tātou hui ki te karakia. Engari, me whai whakaro au ki te taonga kai wainga nuni. Tēnei te tohu o te mahi kotahi. Ka whai whakaro kia mauri ora, nona hoki te whakaro nui. Ia putai tēnā whakaro nei, anei, kui nei te take, noho mai ana te taonga nei. Ia mohi ai tātou, ia tātou e kōrero ana i ngā kōrero, i te āua kotitipea ngā whakaro anei. E titiro ki tēnei hei whakatikatika ia tātou. E mihi atu na kia tātou katoa. I runga i tēra, kia ingo i tātou. E onore he korore ki tātou he mau ngārongo ki te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa āmini. Anga mai rai e tātou he ngā kou hou ki roto ki tēnā ki tēnā o mātou. Ara i tia mana ki tia mai mātou roti a mātou mahi katoa. E pā e hoa e orana e manana i ngā tau mutu ngā kore. O koe hoki tō mātou kai whakaora āmini. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā korua ko Councillor Waru, ko Chairperson James Ngamihi kia korua. Thank you very much to you both. What we've just heard this morning was a really special acknowledgement to each other, but also an acknowledgement of the journey that we've all been on together. We do appreciate that the comments of it has been a long journey, but we also appreciate the comments that we are both very happy to be here today, and that the most important thing is that Te Arawa are here, and we're here to listen to your voice as well. We did also have an acknowledgement of those who is past, and it is with love that we greet you all here today. And of course, with our beautiful taonga that's sitting in between us all, an acknowledgement of Mauri Orokingi, and we do acknowledge the great leadership that he showed here for our Rotorua Hapori, and also for the creation of amazing partnerships like this, Te Tātou o Te Arawa. So we do acknowledge all those who have come before us to pave the way for what will be a very exciting journey ahead. Thank you very much, everyone. We will get underway with this first meeting. It is with great excitement that we do have our first Te Arawa Vision 2050 committee meeting. The first item on the agenda is a call for apologies. I do note that Councillor Patterson and also Councillor Waru will need to leave for early departure at 11 a.m. Do I have any other apologies? There appear to be none. May I please have a mover and a seconder for that? That is moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any declarations of interest this morning? There appear to be none. Any urgent items not on this agenda? There also appear to be none. So we will start off with our first presentation, which we invite Jude Pani, the Manahotu, or Te Tātou o Te Arawa, to come and make a presentation regarding Te Arawa 2050 vision. This will give us a great insight into what has been some incredible work in the past, and of course a founding document that we will constantly look back to for guidance and for the values. So we hand over to Manahotu Jude Pani. Kia ora, Jude.
Morena tātou, Madam Mayor, councillors, and of course the Te Tātou appointed members to this Committee of Council. It's exciting to be sitting here presenting to this committee today. It's been a long journey, but robust process, and here we are today. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Te Arawa 2050 vision, and just in opening, I'd just like to acknowledge Jenny Reaney, who's constantly on my heart. Miss her dearly, led an amazing process from a blank sheet of paper ending up with this Te Arawa 2050 vision. And I think if we went into the TPK archives and looked on shelves in various agencies and government departments, there will be many attempts to start to develop a Te Arawa vision. to collectively bring together the aspirations of Te Arawa into one document that is mandated by Te Arawa. So I think they'll be gathering dust somewhere, like a lot of strategies do and a lot of visions do. They're exciting when one develops them, but often they don't come to life. So it's a privilege to be just presenting on behalf of Jenny and the team the Te Arawa 2050 vision presentation. I'd like to just briefly slice it into two segments today, and it won't be a long presentation because I am aware it was launched in 2020, and many of you have heard the presentation many times as Te Tato's presented over the years to the Council, as this being the foundation document for which our board has built their strategic vision on, their planning document, and for what the Te Tato board has tasked us to do operationally to develop our annual plans off this vision document. So two really segments. One is around the vision journey, and then I'd like to move into the strategic direction segment of the document and just briefly talk through the 7 PO. Am I in charge of this, Robert? Fine. Right, so December 15, I'd like to walk us back there, and this is about the vision journey. The Te Arawa Partnership Agreement was signed, and at that time, Council, one of the expectations of Te Tato and my board was to actually develop our Te Arawa vision. And I think at the time in 2015, we were looking at 2030 as the landing point for this vision. So if you look in the partnership agreement, that one of the goals was for Te Tato to develop a Te Arawa vision and as a deliverable. And also in that document too, Council was going to support the vision and the implementation of the vision. So that was 2015. And Council did support Te Tato and me personally, in terms of a secondment of Jenny Reaney, who at that time was working as the engagement advisor within the Council, seconded to Te Tato to start this process. And Jenny started with a blank sheet of paper, and she led engagement as only Jenny could in terms of an absolute thorough, process where she just dug deep, held her ground and would not move from a process that included all of Te Arawa, formed a rōpū whakahaere to guide the process, and other rōpū to just support and develop this. So that was February 19. We had a little thing called COVID, which for us all was a hiccup and a little trip up along the way. But in July 2020, the Te Arawa 2050 vision was launched. And it was monumental for Te Arawa and for Te Tato. So that's just a little whip through the journey of where we got to. I'd like to move on now to the strategic direction. I mean, the vision leading to this point, and you would have read the document, it's underpinned by values, principles, hoa tawhiti, kupu. It's underpinned by all the right messages and what we got from Te Arawa as Jenny led and facilitated this process. And I will say that this is not Te Tato's vision. We facilitated a process. This is owned by Te Arawa. This is not our vision, it's a Te Arawa vision. And the strategic direction highlighted 7 PO around Te Arawatanga, Te Arawa tangata, Te Arawa takiwā, Te Arawa ohanga, Te Arawa uruto, Te Arawa rangatiratanga, Te Arawa tūhongotanga. And just as we look to the side, the culture, the people, the place, enterprise and economy, technology and innovation, leadership and influence, and this is what I see today, some of our young members sitting around this committee table, and unity and connection. So they are the 7 PO that underpin the strategic direction for this vision. And I'll just briefly slice them up one by one as we walk through. The culture is about our future has te arawa reo, tikanga and values woven into the everyday of our people, partners and the communities in our rohi. And some of the goals that sit under that, these 7 pau are underpinned by 30 goals. So each of the pau has goals that sit beneath it. And I'm certainly not going to read the document, but I'll flick through just some of the goals that sit under each of the pau. Marae order strategies include emergency preparedness, Te Arawa recognised as the cultural capital of Aotearoa, programs to develop real and tikanga expertise, and it gladdens my heart to see the young people in Rotorua today, the whānau, that te reo Māori is their language that they speak confidently, they speak openly, and if we walk back to when Rotorua was first launched, I mean, one of the goals of that was having te reo Māori just normalised within our community, and it's exciting to see that happening. The second pau is around our people, and our future has te arawa uri in peak physical, spiritual and mental condition, and we prosper and flourish across all measures of well-being, health, education, welfare and employment. And I linked to one of the goals being the housing strategy, a Te Arawa housing strategy, Te Arawa health, tamariki ora, taiahi toa strategies. So that's just some of the goals that sit beneath that. The place, Te Arawa takiwa, our future is one that recognises that the well-being of our tile is intimately connected to our own well-being. Our wai and our whenua are restored and healthy, providing the food and resources we need to sustain us, and we are actively engaged with our tile. And there we've got 2 goals sitting under that, our sustainable tile order plan that includes climate change, mahinga kai and food sovereignty, and tile education and restoration programs. Number 4 is about our enterprise and economy, and our future is one where we work together to increase commercial success, which is the vehicle that continues our people's well-being. And sitting below that, 2 goals that I just want to mention is the employment opportunities, increased employment opportunities, and investments that prioritise our local development. Number 5 is about technology and innovation, and it's appropriate to have Potawa on our committee as a Te Tatou member. Our future is one where all Te Arawa uri are able to access, have capability to fully participate and gain benefit from innovation and technology, and about a centre of digital excellence is listed there. Number 6, leadership and influence. Our future has the best leaders making and implementing the best decisions about our resources to continuously achieve the best outcomes for our people. We lead, create and shape kōrero, partnerships and opportunities that bring about positive change on kaupapa that affect us. And we manage matters of significance effectively, and we've got a succession planning program in place. The last one is about unity and connection. And our future has collaboration and connection as a mainstay of Te Arawa operations. Entities and partners working together for the benefit of Te Arawa uri and the wider community. So, Madam Mayor, that's just a quick snapshot of the journey and then the strategic direction of the Te Arawa 2050 vision. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Jude. Great way to get us started. Thank you for your presentation. Are you okay to take any questions?
Absolutely, and I will open it up to others that have been in this journey, in this process too, if I can't respond effectively.
Certainly. And I do acknowledge Roku Mahinui and also Jeff Rollison, who are here in the room, and we're a big part of this journey as well, developing the Te Arawa 2050. So we'll open up for any questions. So if you do have one, just raise your hand and we'll come to you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kia ora. I'll start by saying when I first saw this presented, I think it was at the library, and there was a whole series of presentations. And out of all of them, this just blew me away. I thought, now that is a vision that I could buy into. So, you know, awesome job. Now, I do have some issues. I learnt a word that I hadn't seen for many, many years. I used to speak te reo quite well when I was a young fellow, but over time I forgot. And one word that stood out for me at a film Bay of Plenty hui I went to on Thursday evening with Councillor O'Brien was the word pono. Integrity, honesty, openness, and that to me is what this is all about. So in the interest of that, I know it's probably rushing things and getting a cart before the horse, but just a couple of points that I picked up from rereading this. Page 17 of the vision doc, it says, as land remains, people perish. We will act in ways that better ensure that each generation leaves our taio in a better place. And then on page 20, it says, our future is one that recognises that the well-being of our taio is intimately connected to our own well-being. The Sustainable Taio Order Plan. So that references food sovereignty as being one of the issues. Now, I imagine healthy drinking water would come under food sovereignty. So it goes on to say, Te Arawa entities, and I would take that would include Te Tātou or Te Arawa as being in that group, ensure local and central government follow the taio direction set by the hapu. So my question is, have you, as elected representatives of Te Arawa, been consulted with by central government regarding the plans to fluoridate our water supplies, which may or may not compromise food security? We don't know that for sure. And subsequently may or may not harm our taio in the long term. Have you had any form of consultation from them? And if so, have you communicated what's coming to your hapu?
You're welcome to answer only if you wish, but it is a bit irrelevant to this kaupapa.
I can give you a response, Councillor Patterson. I personally haven't been consulted, and that wouldn't be appropriate in terms of your question, but I'm very familiar with fluoride. Just diving off a bit, when I was at Hamilton City Council and I was leading elections, I led the referendum whether water should be fluoridated. So I understand how we've got two distinct views in our community. But going back to your tātai, I couldn't respond to that. I haven't been consulted, and as I say, as if hapu have, it wouldn't come to me, it would go directly to the hapu.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to raise it because this is a partnership. You should be consulted, and so should all the people of Rotorua and our whole rohe. My understanding, and this is just from people on the streets, they don't even know that it's coming. Got no idea.
Okay,
so
we'll move on because that's not relevant to this. But we did have, for those who may be listening or just joining us, yes, I see Te Taru. We did have a public and live streamed meeting on fluoride, of which the Ministry of Health and also Bay of Plenty Regional Council presented, and both of them confirmed multiple times that there was not harm to health and there was not harm to environment. However, there was a suggestion from Bay of Plenty Regional Council that we monitor the water so that we can see what it's like before and then after implemented. So that work will be ongoing, but we can certainly keep our Te Tātou o Taurua members updated on that. We'll go to Te Taru White online.
Madam Chair, I guess there are many things balance this partnership that we address, like matters that just structured way, and I'm sure that we'll get to the point of some agreement how we might deal with it. Personally, right now, this is quite a momentous occasion. long overdue, but good things come out of work and time. This particular moment, we're facing a number of things. As I see it, together with a good answer. People off. This way, and be up to the left you are, as you can be. Which means that I don't think that will that place. And I look forward to that we and we'll make our and share. Occasion that had a missing. Minds.
Kia ora much. Do just ask if there are any further questions. I do have one question, Jude, if that's okay. I note in one of your earlier slides, and it shows the many different entities that have been part of this. We've got Rotorua Lakes Trust, we've got people involved in hauora, people involved in sports and recreation, fisheries, primary sector. As part of creating the Rotorua 2050, it's very clear that it's broad in nature. Was there at the time, I think it was 2019, a desire for them to relook at this in another 10 years, as an example, which would be in about 4 more years' time? I'm just curious because, while this is an incredible founding document, of course times and challenges change, and I just want to know if this was intended to be set up all the way until 2050, or there was an opportunity to relook at it and see if anything else needed to be included.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, and my board have recently had that conversation and set in our annual plan for this coming year, 25-26, to actually go out again and test it. Is this still relevant, Te Arawa? Has there been any movement? What's changed? What's been achieved? What haven't we achieved? It's really testing those 30 goals and how we're doing. Yes, so absolutely.
Thank you very much. Te Taru, sorry, did you have something else to contribute to that? Or is that a question?
Madam Chair.
Kia ora, thank you to you both. We've got a question from Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Ms. Epsil, and first of all, welcome to the Te Tātou o Te Arawa folk. It's perhaps a little overdue. I did volunteer to go on the committee that helped to work through these issues, but that didn't work out. I'm pleased to be able to sit down and have a chat, have a conversation, have a kōrero, and I think Jude and Rotorua and the Māori ward councillors would probably all acknowledge that I'm always up for a chat, so I just want to say that. And maybe we can have one after this meeting in the green room too. So the bottlenecks never meet with comms. Fun fact, I voted for Te Pāti Māori once upon a time, back in the days when Honihara Hewera was running with Kim.com. So there you go. Glad you're all sitting down for that one. My question was about, thank you for your presentation, Jude, and my question was about the history that you gave us, the partnership agreement in 2015, and then you talked about Vision 2030. Was that really like a version 1 of the Te Arawa Vision 2050?
I think when the partnership agreement was initially negotiated, 13-14, looking out to 2030 seemed to be, far enough away in the distance. But as the team worked on it, it was more about, as Te Arawa take not just a one generational view, it's a longer view, and 2030 seemed to be too constraining, my understanding at the time. I think Rawiri and others here, but iwi take a longer term view of the future and sustainability, and it's not just about one generation in 30 years. So 2050 seemed to be an appropriate landing point. So it wasn't a Mark II of the 2030, it was just extending that.
Are you familiar with the Vision 2030 that was adopted by Council in 2017?
Intimately.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't quote it.
Okay.
Yeah, or respond to questions on it, Councillor.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just checking if there are any further questions for Jude regarding the Te Arawa 2050 vision presentation. No, there appear to be none. Thank you very much, Jude. We appreciate your presentation today. Definitely very good insight and reminder of why we're here too. So what we will do now is I will invite Andrew and also Paul to overview the report, Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee Project Feedback. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour just to receive this report, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Paul, Te Arawa Partnerships General Manager.
Tēnā koutou I te whare, me mihi kā tika anō kia koutou te tau o Te Arawa, I kānahui mai nei I tēnei ata, o tira kia koutou ngā mātarai o te kaunihera nei. Nō reira, welcome to Te Tatau, welcome back, and to elected members of Rotorua Lakes Council. I'll take the report as read, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, well, we will open up for any questions if there are any. Actually, our Chief Executive Andrew will just add some further comment.
So, tēnā rā tātou e te whare, so great to see you all here today, and just echo all the comments that have been made already, that this really is exciting for us as the executive as well, to be able to move forward some of the important mahi that we've got ahead of us that's driven by council, and obviously really keen to hear the feedback from Te Tato Te Arawa into where that intersects with the 2050 vision topics that have been presented already. We, during the course of the discussions to finalise the terms of reference for this committee, our view was it's really important that this committee is successful, and in order for that committee to be successful, it's important that that you all adopt a workable work program, and that's where this notion of key projects came from, so that the public and ourselves could look at the tasks and the objectives set for this committee and measure our success against them collectively. So we obviously have some views from a council work program perspective. We haven't put them into the report per se because obviously we want this to be a discussion. But if there is a need to start with some suggestions, certainly me and the staff would be happy to provide some for discussion if that would help to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. And so just to provide further clarity, as this is the first meeting, this is the opportunity, and it's in point 2 and 3, for this committee to identify some key projects, and also by identifying these together, it will then instruct council officers to report back, as it mentions in the recommendation, report back to the committee with key project information and overview on the following projects. So this process has allowed this to be open before we determine exactly what we wish to focus on as priority areas. So now's the opportunity for our members around the table to be able to identify some key issues that you wish staff to then go away, write a report on for us to discuss at our next meeting. That makes sense. So we'll open up now for any questions or discussion. We'll take them both at the same time now. We've got Councillor Waru followed by Councillor Patterson.
Tēnā koe te manukura, o tira tātou katoa. I think Andrew has already partly answered one of the questions I had with regards to the key projects. And I don't know if it's either kia koe paura, kia kuru arani. Might there be a couple in mind just to get the flow going? Otherwise, we're going to be picking things like that, and that's for all of us to understand where you think it might be best placed to, the projects might be best placed in terms of for this committee.
Kia ora, happy to answer that. So some that have been discussed, so none of these will be surprises because they're part of a council's work program, but also have been socialised more widely, are sustainable wastewater management, housing, and obviously given that it is election year from a staff perspective, a drive to maximise voter turnout across the rohi. So that those are some, again, open for discussion, open for suggestion, but certainly those are ones that from a staff perspective we see strong intersection between the key work program deliverables of council as well as aligning with 2050 vision. But far be it from me to be the authority on those things. Happy to get the ball rolling, as you say, and offer that up for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Just with those, what did you say, sustainable wastewater management? That's a huge kaupapa in itself. Housing, it's a huge kaupapa in itself. Are you suggesting that within that kaupapa or those particular subjects, that's where our reports will branch from? Or?
Tēnā koutou, through you, Te manukura, kia koe Councillor Waru. The intent was we are running internal processes at present across that big subject of wastewater, and the intent is that through your direction today we would go away and scope, and through discussions with Te Tatau or Te Arawa staff we would then come back as the Mayor has identified scope overview and bring back down, I guess, a more refined look for your consideration as the room. This room here will scope it, bring it back down on areas that we think, based on your conversations today and your direction to staff. So yes, it's a big topic. Yes, there's many touch points in there, and we'll take your direction about what areas this room would like to see us focus on, and we'll have those discussions with my colleagues from Te Tatau or Te Arawa, the staff, to come back with where we think it might fit.
For example, if I can add, Peter Manukura, you mentioned the elections. So I'd like to think that would be sort of under the guise of engagement, not just the elections, there are other things in there as well. Is my thinking right?
Absolutely. It's been identified there is a significant opportunity for all voter turnout in the district. How do we break down some of those barriers? It would be about supporting and designing an engagement piece that supports our governance team. It has good representation there. How do we get and reach into those remote communities, right out on the fringes of our boundary, but also right into our urban areas as well? How do we get maximise voter turnout?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as mentioned by the Chief Executive just then, I heard him say that that will be staff driven, that of course. So it'll be a direction, but it is part of their usual business as usual, and it'll be fantastic to see Council and Te Tatua Rotorua work together to increase voter turnout, which we know is low. So we have Councillor Patterson, followed by Councillor Kaifong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Waru kind of asked the same question. I was expecting, to be honest, when I saw empty points 1, 2 and 3, that we were going to have a presentation on suggested ideas and pathways that we could go down. So I've come here thinking that we're going to have a presentation. We picked the best because we've only got 4 meetings this year, a very short amount of time to make decisions, and yet there's nothing to consider. I would love, if this was going to be a brainstorming session, let's call it like that, and tell us to please come prepared with your ideas, and here's where you do your research. I find it a little bit frustrating that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. I think staff have certainly heard your perspective on that. I do know that the intention is only to keep it open, so that there was no predetermination going into this of what the focus areas should be, but we will navigate the best way to do things as we go through this. Thank you. Councillor Kaifong.
Thank you, Chair. Is it going? I just wanted just to assist this, and can I acknowledge Te Taru and Councillor Barker and James Hamiroa. We were part of the working party, so we've been working on this process since the beginning. And at the most recent meetings, when we were trying to bring this all together, and we agreed that both Council and Te Tatou obviously have lots of things that we want to do. The vision has, as Jode mentioned, lots of different PO, and Council has lots of different things that it wants to achieve. But what we had agreed during that working party process was that we both couldn't be across everything, and that we would try and find some common areas where we could make some progress on areas that were significant for both Te Tatou and for us. And I wondered, I know that we have discussed from a council perspective the particular projects, and I'll talk about that or ask some questions about that later, but I wondered if it would be timely to actually ask to hear directly from Te Tatou as to their view on the sort of intersections of the current council priorities that you had identified some opportunities. And then I had a question around the recommendation.
Yeah, thank you very much. We might go to Chairperson James Hamiota, see if you have any comments.
Madam Chair, tēnā tātou. Thank you for the question and the invitation. I'll start our response and invite other appointed members to contribute. Can I just first offer an acknowledgement to your governance team for their taking us under their wing last week and inducting us into this committee process, and how welcomed we felt, how warm and how engaging they were towards us. There were some nerves coming into this, but certainly that engagement that we had with the governance team allayed a lot of nervousness that we had. So, kia rātou, tēnā koutou. We've had a number of conversations, both within the committee setting and within our own board. And perhaps if I just cut straight to the chase and highlight a couple in particular, and then there are some members here who can talk with more authority. And it's based on work that Te Tatau have been engaged in for a long period of time. And specifically in the Rotorua strategy and the technology. So perhaps if I can ask Rangitiaria and Potawa to give some comments in terms of what's been done and where we think they could go to. Tēnā korua.
Tēnā koe, tēnā rā koe te manukura, o te rā koutou ngā mana o te kaunihira, tai atu ki ngā kaimahi o tēnei whare. Tēnā koutou. With regards to Rotorua, there has been significant investment and mahi put into progressing that for all of us as a city since 2017. For us, that's something that we would like to continue together in partnership. It is a part of our current partnership agreement as well. One of the examples that I'd like to draw upon is, I'm not sure if any of you went to the Matariki Matatopa show last year, the Matariki drone show at the Rotorua Lakefront. So when you think of reo, you might think of myself and Councillor Lee having a conversation, but it's so much more than that. Normalising te reo also means having engaging things that help bring a community together, and that drone show was an example of that. So in partnership, we'd like to continue working intentionally towards normalising te reo Māori. Within te reo Māori, we also embed te arawatanga in our identity here within this rohe. And as already mentioned, this committee is something that has not been seen in the rest of the country, so we want to also use that to help further develop our own unique identity as Rotorua. Nō reira koera tētahi o ngā hia to continue working together on Rotorua Reorua projects. He pātai rānei? Does anybody have any pātai questions?
Ngā mihi nui ki a koe Rangitiaria mō tō kōrero. Thank you very much for giving an overview of that. Certainly hearing loud and clear the continued importance of Reorua or bilingual. So thank you. Sorry, did you have a question, Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question to do with Rotorua is sort of drawn upon the experience, I suppose, of Jamaica and Canada. In the Canadian Parliament, they have a bilingual parliament, so elected members can speak in French or they can speak in English, and they've all got headphones, and when one speaks in French, others are either bilingual or they can listen in the other language. Mm-hmm. What you don't see in the French Parliament is French words mingled with English words. Over in Jamaica, what they've got is, what they've ended up with is not a pidgin English, it's called a Creole. And that's where it's a language that's based, in this case, on English. There are other Creoles based on French or whatever. And in their case, they throw African words into English sentences. And I'm wondering if what we're doing with Rotorua is heading down that path of mingling the words, and we're ending up with a Māori English Creole. And I'm concerned from the point of view that English is the international language of commerce, and we have a huge industry of teaching English as a second language here in New Zealand. I don't think too many Chinese people, for example, or South American people send their children to Jamaica to learn English. It wouldn't make sense to do that.
Sorry, Councillor, we're just losing you a little bit. Is there a question or a point?
Yeah. So I'm just painting a little bit of background, Madam Chair, because it's are we heading down the path of creating a Creole rather than actually supporting two bilingual separate languages?
Ka reo te tino marama ki te pātai, hoi anō. I was just saying, I'm not quite sure what the question was. However, language is dynamic and it's evolving. Since the arrival of Pākehā and other tauiwi, we have had a form of Creole in this country. And I'm actually proud to say in Rotorua, te reo was used a lot by tourists, by Pākehā, by Māori, by recent immigrants. So te reo is a normal part of, and it doesn't mean that it's more, it has more mana than English, Spanish, Mandarin, Chinese, or any other reo, in fact. But as the reo of this city and this motu, it is important that we also embrace te reo. E hara I te whakataitai. It's definitely not a competition. In terms of the standing orders, I have to give 2 weeks' notice if I wish to use te reo Māori in this forum. So it's interesting that you bring that up, and maybe that's something that we do look at in our processes about, that's reorua. It's not just spoken reo. It all goes back to policies, procedures, tikanga, pono, all of those sorts of things. So there's a whole wider view to reorua than just the language that we're engaging in here at this table. He mea whakamana I te reo, kai mutu, te whakaputanga, te tiriti o Waitangi, me ngā hiahia o taku iwi o te Arawa. So, sorry, just to go back, because I am conscious that not everybody will understand what I'm saying. But part of reorua is also acknowledging the importance of he whakaputanga, our obligations to te riti o Waitangi, and more importantly, the needs and aspirations of my iwi, of te Arawa, which is what I've been elected to represent here. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you very much, Rangi Te Aria. Mene tino pirangi koe ki te kōrero me te whakarongo I te Reo Māori Council le ka taia koe. If you would like to be able to speak and also to listen to Reo Māori, you are able to. Our council, we're very proud to provide free te Reo Māori lessons to all of our staff, including our Infocourse staff who have come on board, and I know that many of the councillors have taken up that opportunity too, but we acknowledge and we hear clearly that reorua is something that should be continued, so we will include it onto the following projects list, and we'll carry on with the kōrero and the discussion and see what else people would like to bring up, but I think that's been plenty of discussion on reorua. Thank you very much for your very good response, thank you. Te Taru, just checking, did you have a question or?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Look, just getting back to the original issue and the original query, Tato have discussed what are the important upfront items down the table right now, and definitely the housing and the water quality issues were on the table. Okay, so that's something that we'd love to work with Council to put some energy into getting to an outcome for those patients, because they cause a lot of angst out there. There are all sorts of issues, including rates attached to some of those things, and those are things that we need to get done. Okay, so we're committed to working on those. There are a number of things that Tato have been already sunk a lot of time and effort into, and they're already there, almost been ready to go package. So, and Tato will continue to do that. Rotorua is one of those. It's been active and it's still going, and it's still got resource for that. So that's one issue. The other issue is technology and being able to develop and continue to develop what we've been working on to create this Rotorua as a digital hub. And that was something that I'm sure some of you are aware of, that we had with Datacom and others, and the Ministry at times, the Ministry of MPI, I think it was, not MPI, one of the ministries, and they were very supportive of making this thing happen, and politics changed. But these are things that we're still working on, still keen to engage with. But I think the two important items that you've raised are the water quality and the housing issues. They're high on the agenda, and for me, Madam Chair, I'd like to focus on that. The Rotorua stuff is there. It will continue to happen. It's part of the passion of Tātou Te Arawa, and not just a passion, part of our exercise that we want to get done. But it's not to cloud the fact that we've got these other big items right there, staring everybody in the face, and we want to deal with those. So that's just my comment, that Tātou is ready to join forces to talk through the housing issues and the water quality issues with the full council, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Te Taru. Housing is certainly a top priority for us all, so we will add that to the list. And you did also think you mentioned water quality. I know that there has been some discussions around water quality can encompass many, many different projects. And so I know that some of the discussion has been to focus on sustainable wastewater management as a priority area, at least in the short term anyway. So what I'd like to suggest is that we'll also put sustainable wastewater management as a start to water quality, but certainly we hear loud and clear the importance of water. Thank you.
Thank you.
So currently we have Rotorua, housing and sustainable wastewater management that have been suggested. We'll go to Councillor Maxwell, Portawa, Councillor Waru, and then Councillor Kiriopa. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you for highlighting some of the things that in our next 8 to 10 months we can address. You touching on Arawa housing and there's other things, and I think someone else touched on elections coming up in October, so it's obvious to me that Tātou haven't been sitting on their hands, but they're ready to address some of these things. But I just want to acknowledge Nis Rangitiaria for your wonderful presentation on Rotorua. I was here in this chamber when it was launched by our relation to Ururoa Flavel, who was the minister at the time, Minister of Maori Development, and I think it's a program that we should continue on. But I do recall, I think there was a grant given by the government or the ministry at Te Ururoa shares. Did it continue on, or was it a one-off? Kia ora.
Ka te mohi o koe ki ngā pūtea te karauna. Ka memeti. We have been fortunate to get investment from Te Mātāwai and from other sources to help continue our parts of the Rotorua Reorua strategy. However, it is very difficult in the current political climate to be able to, I guess, find investments for this kind of thing at the moment. Investments around te reo. But getting back to one of the other kaupapa that was spoken about was the was maximising voter turnout in elections. That is certainly something that we, as a committee, are committed to supporting over the next 10 months, particularly engagement with whānau hapu, iwi and mātāwaka living here in our rohe. Ai. Nā mihi, uncle. And Rotorua, I remember being in here teaching the very first Rotorua class as part of our partnership with Lakes Council, Te Tatau and Toi Oho Mai at the time, and it's great to see that those classes are continuing to give anybody in our hapori access to te reo. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you very much. You are right, that was mentioned earlier, so we've now put election engagement. What we'll do is we'll put items up, but the recommendation was that we will focus on 5 priority areas at the moment, which I think in itself is still quite substantial, but making sure that we are able to get some action on these items before moving on to the next ones. So we'll now go to Potawa.
Kia ora te whare, kia ora te manakura, e rā rangatira mā tēnā tātou, e ngā whānau hapu iwi tēnā abiota. So I've just rejoined in the last couple of weeks, and I do want to acknowledge all the mahi that's been done since I've been gone. But actually, like I said, I've always been watching the live streams and in constant contact, but most of my mahi has been working with our rangatahi to create, to inspire, to create opportunities for Rotorua. And in my last 3 weeks, I've been a part of lots of hui with Te Tātou, and I think there's been hesitation on Te Tātou's side. Because when you say 5 projects, is it 3 projects from our side, 2 projects from council? Is it 5 projects strict? Is this all cost dependent? Do we have to go back to the LTP? So I think when there's hesitation in a dream, you can't aspire. And if you can't aspire, you can't see the pathway forward. So sometimes we feel like we're just trying to justify our space. And I sense that hesitation, but being what I am, I said, we've got 5 potential projects, but it doesn't limit us from having 20 possible ideas. And I'm happy to hear the ideas today: sustainable wastewater management, housing, voter registration. That's something we're all passionate about. But as mentioned by Rangitiaria and by James, Rotorua is what brings us together. It's the living language of our ancestors and of the future. Being in Aotearoa, speaking English, speaking Te Reo Māori, and sign language, those are the 3 official, those are what we practice and those are what we share with the world. But also housing. And I heard a papakainga policy is on the table and ready to be released, and that's something that Te Aroa have been waiting for the past ever. My 15 years on council, I've always pushed for papakainga policy, knowing how desperate housing is for our people, but how often it's the consent process we can't get through. Yes, there's the financing, but there's also the consent process. So the papakainga policy ties equally to the housing policy for our people. And then that goes into the infrastructure. Infrastructure across in our community, infrastructure is a bad word because of what's happening out in Rotorua. Now, if Te Tātou Aotearoa had been at the table then, we might have avoided so much heartache. But that seems to be continuing. So I think that Te Aroa, it's more than just that one pipe, it's all the pipes. Many of these areas have been problematic and systematic since 1890. Some of these pipes are 80 years old, and we, as a tribe, we want to really have a look down into that pipe layer. But Rotorua is a specific issue. And then civil defence. My wife is from California, and they just suffered a horrendous fire. And there were warning signs, but no one really looked after that emergency management and preparation. A similar thing had happened in Hawaii, in Lahaina. And I would hate to see Rotorua underprepared for earthquakes, underprepared for floods, underprepared for fires. But it seems like our marae are still waiting for council to reach across so we could have a district-wide response to emergencies. And rangatahi opportunities. We have some amazing rangatahi here in Rotorua. An example is Te Whare Tāpere o Te Arawa, who held 2 incredible shows in the past 2 years. These rangatahi are all across our rohe, but they don't get invited to do many things at the council level. I have to acknowledge the Youth Council, but we've also been talking about a Te Aroa Rangatahi Council. So we can start pulling our rangatahi from our rohe, across our marae, across our hapu, and to collaborate, similar to the Youth Council here. But for me, the po I'm passionate about is innovation. Now, innovation is part of our DNA. It's in the DNA of Rotorua and of Te Aroa. And I like to think that innovation solves problems. And one of the big problems I see today is internet access. So in a few months' time, the 3G network will be dropped. So anyone with an old 3G phone, your phone is useless. It's like an Alcatel from the past. It's like your BlackBerry. 3G is getting switched off. And if you take a look at the broadband map across Rotorua, there are areas where you can get broadband access, the cities, and as soon as you go 10 minutes out of town, 5 minutes out of the city, you drop off to 4G, 3G, and I think the bigger problem is we can't connect with whānau. So there's a rare opportunity. A percentage of spectrum was allocated to Māori. And in that Māori spectrum allocation, there is a Te Arawa portion. So perhaps an idea that we could join up with is to create a Rotorua Te Arawa 5G network that spans Mai Maketu ki Tongariro. And now it helps to create, it eliminates those blind spots, which we have this. I don't want to go too geeky, but we should have seamless connectivity from Maketu to Taupo. And Rotorua could be the heart of that. So that's what me and the geeks talk about, innovation. But we have big, audacious dreams for our city, but I think we need to really start small. We need to bring it back so that we can feel comfortable being in this room and that we can start working together. And I know it's an election year, and I know things are going to be said and things are going to be done, but we want to continue having this relationship beyond this year and into 2050, and so that our mokoponas can look back at us and say, well done to my ancestors. Well, we are living ancestors today. So I know that wasn't 5, it's like 7, 8. But we've got to put those ideas out. And I do agree, Councillor Patterson. The process, we should have had presentations, but this was an opportunity to share. First, share breath, share smiles, share ideas, and then we can get on with the mai. But believe me, Te Tātou Te Arawa is ready to do the mai. So kia ora tātou.
Kōrero potawa, kōrero. Thank you. Thank you very much. So James had mentioned technology earlier. I've now heard innovation, so perhaps we could put technology and innovation and start with focusing on connectivity. And what we'll, just to give staff some guidance, what we'll do is we'll see what influence that council does have in that area. I know that we do have already an existing relationship with Chorus, so they have been working towards connecting our lakes areas. So we'll see what mahi we can pull forward into a future committee to see if there's anything we can do to partner up together to encourage this investment to happen much earlier than it's probably planned for, if that's okay. Thank you very much. So we do have 5 up there, but we won't stop there if there are any further ideas. And what we'll do is we'll just keep adding to the list, and then we'll confirm what the top 5 will be. And we could just have the other points still on there, but just as future items for discussion so that we don't lose what's coming out of today. So we'll now go to Councillor Waru and then Councillor Kiriopa. And if there's anybody else, please just let me know.
Tēnā koe, e te manukura o tira tātou katoa. Tōta hea kira, Councillor Lee, we talk about the Creole reo. Trust me, e te pai, you don't need to worry about that happening. It's because it's already happened. I am one of those kids that spoke that way. Ask my cousin here. Hoi anō, wata tau tamariki nāne, our kids now, but my kids speak 3 languages. And they mix it up all the time. However, if you would go to all the major national speech competitions and all that, you might find that a lot of the kura kaupapa kids are actually at the top. And they speak Māori only at school. And yet they are at the top of English as well. So, I don't think we need to worry about that. I think it'll just evolve naturally. But to get to my kōrero, my question, and there's a few things up there, and maybe Andrew might be something you think about. Where, seen as council operates against policies, would there need to be a, I suppose, category on its own where we discuss, or where you might bring forward particular policies, i.e. the mana whenua engagement policy, assets disposal policy, things like that, things that would matter to this committee. I don't know if that's clear enough in those subjects up there.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. There are two ways to look at this. One is you could say certain functions, right? So the certain mechanics of council come to this meeting. But what I would suggest is that the way you've arranged it now topically is more appropriate because you get a more holistic view. So we'll take housing for an example. What we would do is staff would work out what part of the housing spectrum is particularly relevant to this committee, and then it wouldn't just be policies, it would be work programs, it would be everything related to that kaupapa that comes here, and I would suggest that that gives you a more holistic view of the problem we're trying to solve and the possible actions that go towards solving them, rather than taking a function by function view, because otherwise you might end up on policies that are relevant, but also ones that are not relevant, and just conscious of the bandwidth of both the members around this table, but also staff to prepare and bring meaningful reports so that you have a meaningful conversation here.
Kapa, thank you. I think that I'm clear on that now. So under those headings, the appropriate policies or work programs will be presented. That's good. Good for us to know. The last question I had was around like we've got election engagement. What would you recommend? Should we just say engagement? Straight up, not just election engagement, but engagement across the board. Or is that too broad?
We'll get Paul to answer this, thank you.
Through you, Te Manukura, kia koe, Councillor Waru, the thinking behind election engagement and the title might need some refining. I would envisage that we would be working with Greg's team and the governance team alongside Te Tatau that would look at civic education. It's the breadth of why voters don't turn out. So what are the geographical challenges? What are the challenges of connectedness and transportation on the day to get to a voter booth? Are the voting booths in the right place? Do we have enough staff to service those voter booths? These are all the challenges in my experience of local government and working in a district, and this is a big district, and we stretch all the way to Kaingaroa and down to Rotorua and Broadlands, all the way north to Rotorua and Rotorua, and people live in those places. So how do we break down those geographical challenges? Many people that we engage with on a daily basis, and we've heard it here today, to your point around fluoridation, they just don't know. So connectedness, topics, all of that binds into what's our engagement plan, civic education, how do we do it on the day, how do we maximise voter turnout so that we have the best percentage turnout in the country. That's how our thinking was going, just freelancing amongst staff. Kia ora.
If I can add to that, actually, given we're operating in a world of constrained resources, I believe a big piece of our engagement needs to be digital. So really pleased to hear the comments from member Rotorua, that actually the digital engagement piece is going to be massive, both before and during, and to hold people's engagement as we go through. So again, the trade-off is around keeping it narrow so that it's achievable, and having it pegged to elections means that we can look back and say, well, actually, did we move the needle? And we can be really transparent about, did our work together actually deliver results or not? And I think my suggestion, again, is, as Paula said, keep it narrow. It will include other aspects, but it becomes more measurable if it's around something specific. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll just, so what you're saying is that you're confident that these particular items or kaupapa will encompass enough, give us enough meat to chew on. Papa, kia ora.
Thank you. And remember, this is just the first tui, and it can always be raised in future as well. So I want to make sure we are capturing all of the kōrero. So perhaps if we could just add, Robert, future items, and we can put engagement. And I also heard rangatahi come up before as well. So we'll just, there won't be much detail, but we'll just put that there to formally note that these are items that we wish to look into in future. So we do have Councillor Kiriopa, Councillor Patterson, and then Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Kia ora everyone. For me, the most important thing that we've had up there, which is still there in a sense, is the Aotearoa voting strategy. It's in the common interest of both Council and iwi to increase voter turnout, but I have a huge issue with it being staff-driven and resourcing going to constrained Council staff resources. I believe that a Aotearoa voting strategy should be led and implemented and actioned by Te Arawa Rangatahi to address and to use this to address the constrained resources of hapu and iwi. Is my first point. Secondly, I think we're listing all of these things, but at the end of the day, all of it comes back to Council processes and policies, and whether or not those Council processes and policies align or not with the Te Arawa vision. And so before we can say, oh, we're going to go and do this and this and that, I just think a huge piece of work that needs to be done is to have somebody map or a team map across Council policy and processes. So, for example, mapping across the Rotorua housing strategy and the Te Arawa housing model to see what aligns or doesn't. Mapping across Council's Te Reo policy and seeing how that aligns or not with the Rotorua initiative. Mapping across the civil defence policy and seeing whether or not that aligns with marae plans. Mapping across Council's tile strategy, the waste minimisation strategy, the waste minimisation strategy, and seeing whether or not those align with iwi environmental management plans. So in order to do that, you would need the resourcing of a dedicated team of policy analysts with expertise there to represent iwi interests as well as Council, and I know that's happened before because I've been a part of a project where that's happened before. And it's a dedicated team of policy analysts to complete a stock take of Council policies and processes to identify what could and should be revised to align with the Te Arawa 2050 vision to enable its implementation. Most importantly, as part of that work, what needs to happen is the identification of how Council and Te Tatou can work towards empowering our whānau and hapu in all dealings with councils to enable effective relationships between Te Arawa and RLC, which is what our whānau and hapu actually thought Te Tatou was set up to do in the first place. So I feel like there's, 7 or 8 on the list now, in my opinion, a whole lot of those, or all of those except for the voting strategy, could all come under the same thing, where, like I said, the focus has to be on Council policy and processes and seeing what needs to be improved to be able to start addressing all of those other kaupapa that are up there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kiriopa, for that contribution, and certainly this will be the start. We've heard a number of times around the table there are limited resources, but the benefit of working together and prioritising what we wish to address first will ensure that we are able to see some tangible, practical outcomes for not only Te Arawa but also our wider Rotorua community. And it certainly is the intention that by working together we will both have much better shared outcomes. So we will certainly take that on board regarding what would you like to call it? Stock take of policies and processes. Does that summarise it enough? Okay, thank you. We'll just put that as a future item. But I do note that after selecting the 5, and then point 3 is that the committee recommends to Council that the identified key projects be adopted as its work programme for 2025. So the work programme's essentially the mahi, the work that our staff do. And so naturally, looking at those topics as a start and how they align will be part of that process too. So we do acknowledge you mentioning that, and certainly will be some work towards it. I'll go to Councillor Waru because I'm mindful you do need to leave shortly.
Thank you.
We'll go Councillor Patterson.
Just a quick question around, as you mentioned, after the staff go away to plan, I assume, I'll just might sound like a stupid question, I assume that that would be working also with Jude and the team at Te Tau. Kapai, thank you.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just echoing the comments of my colleague Fortawa across there, technology, yes, that is a key thing that we should be looking at, particularly after had a productive meeting yesterday with a wonderful Māori business, Local Gecko Productions, and their future expansion is exciting for Rotorua, but they are heavily dependent upon internet. If we don't get our internet sorted, we will be left behind. So totally support that kaupapa. The other one that was raised at that hui was sport and recreation. So one thing that Rotorua has been talking about, but hasn't actually come to fruition yet, and we should be working together on this kaupapa, is making Rotorua the home of Māori sport. And while he's in the room, the home of the New Zealand Māori Golf Tournament could be a good one. Just putting that out there.
The home of NRL All-Stars.
Yeah, the home of the Māori All Blacks. Yes. Yeah, let's bring it all here. But the other one that really gets to me, as you probably know, is our tile. So under the heading of wastewater management, probably more stormwater with this concept, is Quito Park is largely wasted. There is the parts that's utilised and utilised well, but then there's all this green grass that's just swampy and unusable. Let's turn it back to what it was, which was a wetland. Let's have that feed some of our stormwater into that and be purified by trees and plants and bring the birds back into our city, bring wildlife back into our city. And for that to happen, we need the cooperation of the people whose land that is. So those kind of projects, there is even talk about down in the government gardens around there, some sort of wetland system. If we could incorporate that into our wastewater system, or stormwater system, I should say, it's a much more environmentally friendly approach than just putting it into the lake. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Just double check. I was just quickly looking at the notes I've been taking, and civil defence also came up. I'm seeing a lot of nods around the table, so we'll also put that into, we'll call it civil defence preparedness, I believe was the words used. Thank you. Just checking if there's anybody else who wants to contribute. Oh, sorry, Councillor Maxwell and then Te Waiarangi.
Thank you. And I'll try and be brief as possible, but I only mentioned about the election engagement, and I know Paul will come back with a good report, and he's touched on some of it already. But I want to raise the fact that some of the responsibility lie with us all here. This is a good start for our own community about Rotorua Lakes Council and Te Tata working together, and let that be part of the leading up even during and through the elections too, the behaviour and things like that. But what I wanted to say was being mindful there's a referendum also in there, and nothing worse that'll screw results in the referendum is if we're arguing, bickering and things like that and complaining. And I think our own committee can be and our own entities can be a big influence on how that referendum goes. So probably a big ask, but let's have a clean campaign.
It would be nice, thank you.
I just want to be really clear that the staff work to drive election turnout will be completely apolitical. So all we'll be doing is looking at the barriers to voter participation from what we already know and putting into place strategies that will address that. So it won't be about specific candidates, it won't be about specific policies whatsoever.
Thank you, and that is the usual business as usual, and our council goes into election mode from August as well, so it is independent. Te Waiarangi.
Tēnā koe te maraikura, o tira tēnā tātou katoa. I want to speak to the rangatahi points. Rangatahi here in Rotorua are full of potential and are mostly ready to take on the world. But rangatahi, particularly here in Rotorua, also face issues at a much higher rate or that affect them much more than their counterparts in other cities such as Hamilton or in Auckland. For a bit of perspective, here in Rotorua, rangatahi Māori and our wider youth are facing issues such as mental illness and suicide. We've seen that entering kura in our schools now. We know that there's tamariki that are spending the first 1,000 days of their lives in a hotel room with their 5 siblings. We've seen a decrease in youth employment and emergency housing. And overall, there's just huge systematic barriers that prevent youth from participating at their fullest capacity in education and sporting. I wanted to bring that up because while it's not our job or anyone's job at this table to play the role of the Ministry of Health or different social services, I think we all have an obligation to commit to these youth, to these children, and make the city a place that they can thrive in and want to live in and participate in. And I also want to point out that the Arawa vision, it's a 2050 vision. It was written with the aspiration and the hopes of dreams of our mokopuna and our tamariki. Most of us will be here around 2050, but the group or the target group, I suppose, that will affect is our children. So it'll be wrong not to bring them to this table. And I hope that moving forward, our council can recognise our youth as something they want to invest in. I think we can all stand on the common ground that when you invest in rangatahi and you invest in youth, that the benefits and the outcomes contribute to a greater society intergenerationally. So, tēnā tātou.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, you had a question, and then we'll go to Te Taru.
Am I on?
Oh, yes, sorry. Te Taru, is your hand up for a question, or did you want to contribute?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go. Yep.
Hell. Yeah, sorry about that. Look, I was just playing with the tablet here. Hey, look, I'm encouraged by the conversations. I just want to share some with you. I was meant to be at the opening of the new industrial park on the Tupuki Highway there, and I wasn't able to be there, but Arawa was there as the other day for Quayside. Went really, really well, and was an example of people coming together to put the taiaha aside, make the best decisions they can make for our people and our place. And it really, really rumbled on. There's about 4,000 jobs that will be available over the next 12 years. Plus, parts of the area have been taken up now. Lots of environmental tags on them. And, so it's one of those things that's a pleasure to be part of. Likewise, when people come together, the Waihi estuary is in for a good clean-up. We've managed to broker with the current government quite a few things and got the iwi farmers and scientists and other people on board. So this was all about how do we build cohesion out there with the community as well. And I'm very keen for us in moving ahead to sort of create that cohesion. And I'm sure Te Arawa can go quite a ways to help that out there in the field. Yeah, because we've got some big ticket items ahead of us. And while we talk about a lot of things, there's no doubt to me, again, and I'll emphasise this, that the lake water quality issues, the sewage issues and so on, and also the involvement in iwi and a lot of transactions is going to be important. And I think this is where we're at right now, and I'm looking forward to that, with some encouragement, Madam Chair. So, look, I'm just trying to cut through what I feel is a great moment, and basically, getting things on the ground moving at some point. Yes, we'll raise things that we like to do, but it's what we have to do is going to be important as well. So, Madam Chair, I just want to rest it there. I am getting a bit tired after my lengthy hangover in Hoki Pera, trying to get through my granddaddy trying to be a motorbike as well. So thank you, Madam Chair, for this occasion.
You're very welcome, Te Taru, and we're grateful that you're able to join us. Thank you. Councillor Lee, and then I am mindful just of time, so we might wrap up this kōrero soon. So if you have any further contribution, please let me know. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Tapsell, and just to let Te Warangi know, I'm planning to be here in 2050. So, me too. Just saying. Maybe not here. Maybe not here. But and I'm very pleased to hear what Andrew said, that civic education, election engagement is an issue for the whole community, and it would be great to see more of the community involved in that. My question is to Paul, I think, and seeing this is, I'm a first-term councillor, and this is our first meeting with this particular committee. The arrangement that we are working together with here is started in 2015, the Te Arawa Partnership Agreement. Can you just, the word partnership, is this a partnership because of the treaty principles and the principle of partnership in the Treaty of Waitangi, Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
Through you, Te Manukura. Kia koe, Councillor Lee, whilst I wasn't here in the initial discussions of 2015, and I'll afford those that can recall those early conversations, because that's where the rich kōrero would have occurred when that, but to bring it through to a modern context, I'll bring it back to our responsibilities as a local government, that we are required to have arrangements for participation in local government, and I'll reflect upon conversations that occurred last week, if I can recall, around the topic of the rates regarding the committee that would inform how those rates might occur, and there was a strong conversation inside the chamber, in the committee room, regarding ensuring that we have all the right people at the table. And Te Tatau o Te Arawa is one of those mechanisms that ensures representation under Te Tiriti, and ensuring that we complete our legislative responsibilities under relationships. I will use the point that the term partnership, and it may be relevant today, and it's up for each individual. The term partnership was a word that was used often back in the mid-2000s and prior. You start to see a new word that's coming to life, which is around relationships, and that's about the evolving conversations that occur amongst yourselves. It is yourselves as the decision makers that choose the words. Staff will wānanga, so it can be a combination of partnership. At times it is a partnership, at times it isn't. But underpinning this is relationships, and under the word relationship you have a spectrum of touch points where it's partnership. Sometimes you divulge responsibilities, sometimes that doesn't occur for many reasons. So I think partnership is still alive and appropriate in the context of today until you decided it's something else. If that answers your question.
I'm not sure it answers my question. Is partnership referred to in the Local Government Act?
Off the top of my head, I believe it's engagement.
It's engagement and participation. We have to provide for participation in decision making.
Put gas in my car. Okay. Okay.
Maybe Te Taru might be able to offer a perspective, seeing he's been there since the beginning.
I think we've had a very sufficient answer from Paul. I know that Councillor Waru needs to leave, so I'll let.
I was just going to say, can I move those, please?
Yeah, thank you. That's moved by Councillor Waru. We will also go to Councillor Brown. Is there anyone that's happy to second the items that we have in front of us? Yep, that's seconded by James Hamiota. And we'll just take one final point from Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is about a coming together. I just wonder about number 3, sustainable water management, I struggle with the language. And I'm just looking at the 2050 vision where Te Arawa talk about a Taio Ora plan. That to me is what we've got written up there is not aspirational at all. It's very much focused on a specific challenge that we meet, but I do wonder about wastewater. I've heard talk of recovered water. I think the best way to sum it up is in Te Reo is restoring the mauri of the water. And that's been a specific interest of mine for all of my life. And that's, I think, the challenge that will is the right one for this council and future councils for all of our grandchildren. So that's the only comment I would add to this. We could have a think about how we address that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. So as a suggestion, we'll just go after sustainable wastewater management comment, restoring mauri o te wai, which just means restoring the life of the water. Is that okay with everybody? Great. We've had a mover and seconder. That's okay with you? Okay. So what I suggest is the final items that we do have is the appointment of the chairperson and then the setting of the schedule of meetings. Just in the interest of time, if you're all okay, we might just continue and then we'll break afterwards for lunch. Ka pai? Thank you. So I think we've had sufficient discussion. We do have a mover and a seconder. Remember, this is just the start, and what will happen is council officers will then report back to the committee. I do note that the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, 16th of April, and so our council staff, alongside Jude and Kayla, who are incredibly capable, will bring back a report to us. So we do have a mover and a seconder for this. I'll read it out just in the interest of those who may be tuning in online. Point 2, that the committee instruct council officers to report back to the committee with key project information and overview on the following projects: Rotorua, housing, sustainable wastewater management, mauri o te wai, election engagement, technology and innovation, connectivity, and then future items for discussion is engagement, rangatahi, stocktake of council policies and procedures, and civil defence preparedness. Ka pai. So I now put that forward to the vote. All those in favour, please, if you could raise your hand. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? That's one abstention, thank you. And that is passed. And so now it brings me great pleasure to, now that we have started off this Te Arawa Vision 2050 committee, and we have set our key priorities to be focusing on together, it is now my pleasure to reach the point where we will appoint our chairperson. Let me get this wording right. Our committee chairperson and also the deputy chair. Members, I wish to exercise my power as Mayor, as set out in section 4.1a, paragraph 2b, to appoint the Chair and Deputy Chair for this committee. While it has been a great honour to open this up and start this off as the Mayor, I do think that it is also very fitting that we acknowledge a new chairperson who I like to appoint and suggest Councillor Trevor Maxwell. Not only because of his significant experience, passion and dedication towards our wider Rotorua community, in particular Te Arawa, but also, of course, because of his deep experience as the longest-serving councillor, of which he has had many roles at the Rotorua Lakes Council, but I'm sure he will very much enjoy being the chairperson of Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee. In acknowledgement of the partnership that we have with Te Tātou o Te Arawa, I also would like to appoint James Hamiora as the Deputy Chair. I think it will be fantastic to have this committee led in partnership by both Councillor Maxwell and Chairperson James, and we know that James brings much experience in governance and also in serving our wider community in Te Arawa as well. So Fortunately, I get the power to do that, so there is no vote that is required on that. So what I'd like to do now is vacate this chair as chairperson. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this, and it's my great pleasure to acknowledge Councillor Maxwell and invite him up here to continue chairing the Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee.
Koutou. First of all, big sincere thank you to Her Worship the Mayor. My favourite niece, sorry, Rangi Te Aria. And also to congratulate James as Deputy Chair, and I know we'll work well together. And holding on to Māori orders, Patu, which he received some 10 or so years ago when our committee started. But thank you very much for the confidence and the support that the Mayor and you all have given for me to chair this. I say a very important committee because this is Te Arawa's vision that I can recall way back to 2015 and the lead up to have us closer and closer together. Already, I feel very honoured. Been on council a while, and I used to be the youngest on council, but there are far many more younger ones than me, of course. But thank you to Te Tātou. I said it earlier, you haven't been sitting on your hands, but now we can do it together. And so thank you, James, as chair, and Te Taru, kia te mihi au kia koutou, kia koe. Yeah. For the mahi that you've done with Jude's help leading Te Tātou over the years up to now. So I know we've got some mahi to do, and which we've already debated and talked about. But not only that, Anaru, our committee here, are looking forward to working with you too, for sure. All right, I'll put the patu down and pull out the pen and let's get to work. We've got mahi to do, but Naki atua koutou e manaki. Kia ora no tātou katoa. Kia ora. Okay, we are ready. Trip to Rarotonga for the committee. Yeah. Oh, yes. So here we go with 10.2. Everybody on your agendas, there's the schedule of meetings for Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee. 1st January 25 to 31 August I'll ask for a move in a second, but just before I do, I did look at the dates that are here on our schedule, and a few Tuahurangi members that are here with me. Can I ask for your help on, there's one date there that I saw which is 10th of June. Now that's a big significant date for Tuahurangi with the Te Arawa eruption, and you always have a celebration of some kind on that day, and I'd hate you to be missing from this meeting, and for us. Do you think that might be one of the dates we look at? Tō tae mena kia koe, e te tiamana. Tika ana nau te tangata mō te rao ngā tūranga. Nōku te waimari e te humari e, kia noho i tō tā, i tō tuarua, anō reira nei te mi. I would expect, without having specific details, that Tuahurangi and indeed Te Arawa will recognise that particular significant date, but I don't know what specific details have been raised. A mover of the dates and a seconder, then we can discuss what we've just been talking about. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Waru is the mover. Seconder, please, from Te Tatau. Hami, thank you very much. Seconder. And now we'll have a debate, a discussion on the dates that are on our schedule. And can you address the one that I just mentioned about the 10th of June? Oh, yes, please. If you called it all about the dates. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Look, this is really a governance function for us to be able to manage our workflows and agenda settings and everything that comes through this program. If there's a date on this that you do not necessarily agree with today, my suggestion is that we remove that date from the calendar and we would come back with a separate date in a separate report. We would have to see how the date works and fits into other committee meetings and council meetings as well. So if that date does prove to be problematic, we can perhaps adopt the other 3 dates, and then we will come back and bring forward another date at the next meeting if that works for you. Thank you.
Tino pai tētā? Okay. The other one too, Greg, if you can give an overview of the total report.
Look, as I had said, under the standing orders and this is a schedule of meetings brought forward so that we can all plan around what this looks like. Obviously everybody is really busy around this table, and making sure we can get these calendars together for you and in good time is really the purpose of this report.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Kamatua, and congratulations on your appointment to the chair. I'd just like to say that, and remind you, sir, that the pen is mightier than the patu. And I'd rather cross pens than cross patus with you, sir.
Councillor Waru.
Kia ora e te tiaman. Just in terms of the dates that and one's being flagged, I assume that can be quite fluid if there's enough time given in preparation.
Yes, so the ones that we would adopt today, we would lock those into our calendar, and it just allows us some time to work through that. The one that you may wish to not adopt today, yes, we have an opportunity to see what date would work. Giving notice that obviously we want to make sure that we're at least a month ahead of adopting that, so we can get notification out to the public as well.
Just put it on the record, so those dates are, can they be written up?
Sorry?
The dates.
You just want to have a look at the dates?
Yes, please. Just for everyone.
Okay. We can move on this one.
The 10th.
Okay. Okay, just getting guidance from Greg here, so that we can make progress. Can someone move that we remove the date 10th of June from the schedule, then we can move on this one and come back with a new date. Thank you. Moved, I was going to say Councillor Amiota, for the change. And seconded by Councillor Wadu. Any discussion on that? All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Okay, and now we'll come to the two other dates that we have there. And it has been already moved by Councillor Wadu, seconded by Councillor Hamiola.
4th of August.
Can we just
If I may check a spanner in the works, would anybody be adverse to the 17th of April?
One moment, I'll just get Greg to explain it.
Sorry, it's a little difficult for us on the spot to be able to shift that right here. We're not sure what other commitments there might be.
That's right, that's right.
Okay. I'm going to read that the committee recommends to Council the adoption of the schedule of meetings for Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee for the period 1 January 2025, 31 August 2025. Can I have a mover, please? Your Worship the Mayor. Mover, seconder. James. Mr. Hamiota, seconded. Any discussion? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and may I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your appointment, and also just from a council point of view, with Her Worship being the Chair of full council and our two committee chairs both being wahine, can I welcome this chance to address the gender imbalance that we've been under for so long, so congratulations. Yeah, so impressed. It's great to see it still. Could I just ask a question, please, moving forward? I have no problem with the dates, but how will the agenda be handled moving forward? How do items become on the agenda? Will that be staff, or how does Te Tato move forward with that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's right. So staff will work collaboratively with the Te Tato staff in order to put together the agendas, and papers would come through as they would to a council meeting or a committee meeting, based on the topics that have been outlined and agreed here today.
Thank you. And can I just confirm that as a council committee, that if councillors, or I take it Te Tato members, wish to also move motions, the normal standing orders would apply?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any more discussion on the topic we've just got on there? Thank you. Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair.
Apologies if this is not the right place to raise this, but while we've set the schedule of meetings, is there an opportunity to discuss where those meetings are held? Or are we committed for those meetings to be held here in the council chambers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. This is really setting the dates and the times. This is not setting the location, so there is an opportunity for further discussion on that.
Kapai. Sorry, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. So that discussion will take place at a future meeting or in between. Be able to comment when that might take place?
Thank you. So that would happen in discussion in between meetings. So we would have to set the dates today, and then we would set the location in discussion with between meetings with yourselves and staff.
By Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's got a ring to it, hasn't it? You're right, Councillor O'Brien. Just on the issue of location for future meetings, my only concern would be that meetings could be live streamed, and so the public are able to participate in that manner. The principle of openness and transparency to the public, Section 14 of the Local Government Act.
Through you, Mr. Chair, take on board the comments from Councillor Lee. Can we consider those amongst all the other accessibility initiatives and requirements? And we'll consider those and bring that back for at the next meeting for confirmation. Thank you.
Put it to the vote. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Abstention? One. Okay. The motion is carried. Thank you. There being no further business this morning. And before asking Councillor O'Brien to do the closing karakia, very shortly next week, and actually, the Mayor is leading a delegation to China, and Councillor Watt is going. Wish you well on your trip next week, and come back safely. And for the rest of us and the rest of Te Arawa, we'll empty the town out and go to Te Matatini next week in New Plymouth. And all the best to our 6 rōpū who are representing us. So thank you with all of that. And before asking Councillor O'Brien to do our closing karakia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's wonderful.
Restrictions are moved aside, so the pathway is clear to return to everyday activities, allied, enriched, unified and blessed.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Councillor O'Brien, and declare the meeting closed. Kia ora koutou katoa.
Just a